What is up, guys? This is going to be another commentary video for EDISON format. This is going to be another match from the same tournament that I went to for Collectible Exchange. It's going to be a matchup between Zombie and versus Caliber Cat. This match was very close. It came down to a simplified game state in the end. But I know that's spoilers. But yeah, I'm gonna commentate over this video and hope you guys enjoy what I have to offer. I'm gonna put this up to ×2 speed, and then I'll be playing it. All right, go. And like always, I usually just pause the video whenever I want to talk about something, because yeah, sometimes they play a little too slow. So anyways, it looks like who's going first? Yeah, it looks like the guy on the right is going first. That's Caliber Cat. He does a T set, very classic T set. I think by top 4, most players already know what they're gonna play up against, because everybody likes to scout what's gonna be played. So I think he knows that the player on the left knows that the player on the right is playing Caliber Cat. So into a T set, the opponent does a set in response. So the guy on the right kind of has a clue as that he has a handful of monsters. So I believe he decides to flip the Doom Caliber. He decides to flip the Doom Caliber to bait out any sort of flip effects, such as Goblin Zombie, because he knows that it'll trigger the Doom Caliber ability, and he summons the Airbellum to attack into the life points directly, because it's a full monster hand, right? And so he doesn't have anything to worry about except for maybe for Tragodia and Gores. But I feel like if he has a backup plan, if it's a Tragodia, it might be a brain control or a mind control to steal the Tragodia. And if it's a Gores, he probably has a backup plan other than maybe this is like a Mirror Force or something. But it looks like he discards a... it's hard to tell from here, from this angle. Judging by his hand size, it looks like he drew into a trap. Oh yeah, it was a hamster. So it looked like instead of having a full monster hand, he had like spell cards that needed to have conditions met in order to do it. So much like the prediction I had before, it might have been a full monster hand, but it turned out to be a monster full of like spells that he couldn't use. He might have drawn into a trap card that I just saw in his hand too. He hand shuffles quite often. So here he can actually tribute for Caius here, or he can make a synchro play. But I believe this back rower here is going to deal with any monsters that he might have, because he anticipated that if when he attacks directly, that it might have been a Gores as well. So I think it's kind of like a Mirror Force or something. And it couldn't have been a book, because he could have booked the Plague Spreader zombie so that he can't synchro. And this deck does play 3 books based on the deck list. Okay, so this is a very classic, well, this is actually a ruling for people who are returning back to the game. So everybody heard of what priority is. Priority basically means that you retain the ability to activate your ignition effect. Ignition effects are like, basically says that once per turn you can do something. But however, if a mandatory effect causes you to resolve the effect when it's sent to the graveyard, such as Goblin Zombie, you no longer retain the ability to do priority to activate ignition effects. So that means that Goblin Zombie has to be Chainlink 1, and Bryanak cannot be Chainlink 1 at all. So that means that if he has something like a Bottomless, he can kill the Bryanak. So he goes for the Bryanak play here. I'm guessing because he anticipates this is kind of like a battle trap, because when he attacked bravely with the Airbellum, forcing like a Gores and Tragodia, it meant that he has a backup plan in response. So Bryanak is most likely going to bounce the back row here, because this is probably not a Bottomless or a battle trap, but we'll see. Oh, okay, so it's compulsory. So If it was a Gores, compulsory does sound like it's a good one. Normal people don't play compulsory, but it's still good in EDISON format, I guess, because they're synchros. Personally, I would have waited for him to use priority to bounce the back row, but I think he knows that this is a zombie deck that wants to have the cards in the discard. So I guess he does jump the shotgun a little bit to bounce the Brian X so that he can't capitalize off the discard. Because yeah, it makes sense. Because he could have searched the Mizuki off the Goblin Zombie, and then discard it to bounce back a card. Okay, so these are two new back rows that we haven't seen before. Most likely, it's one trap and one spell. Yeah, it could be either or. But top deck's the upstart here. So much like last turn when he was not afraid of attacking last turn, it's most likely he only drew one trap, and if it's a battle trap, he can just spend it. Because this basically forces a back row because he now has no monster, so he felt safe to attack with the monster and force out the one trap that he might have drawn. Yeah. Now he's debating on whether he wants to use Book of Moon to save his Arabellum, but he knows that he has a hand full of monsters or spells that require certain things to activate. So it looks like he didn't draw a monster, which means you can insinuate that the rest of the cards in his hand were like cards that need to be tribute summoned, like a Dark Arm, or not tribute, like a Caius or a Dark Arm, or anything that requires special summoning conditions to be had. I was debating on what to set here. This could be a top deck Raikou or a top deck Hamster. Or a Pyramid Turtle. Looks like he's having trouble drawing a monster. This sets another trap. He sets another spell and trap confidently, which leads me to believe that one of these is a Solemn or Starlight Road. Yeah, so it's a Raikou top deck. Okay, so he trains a Torrential. That was actually a bad pick for the Raikou player, or for the Raikou, because this is a chainable trap to a summon. So if he had targeted anything else, he would have been a 2-for-1. Or he could have just waited. So if this was a Starlight Road or Solemn, he could have just popped it, leave the Torrential set, and then when he summons another monster, he could just Torrential there. That would have been a better exchange, but yeah. So now he doesn't have to worry about Torrential anymore. And it looks like he didn't draw a monster either, so this is basically a top deck war. He sets another spell and trap, which leads me to believe this is a trap. So Summoner Monk. Summoner Monk, what it does is you can't call priority on the ignition effect because his effect to trigger to switch to defense mode activates first. And normally you want to wait until you play Rescue Cat from the deck, and then when you use Rescue Cat, if you have Bottomless, assuming this is Bottomless, when he plays Rescue Cat, he plays the 2 Arabellum, and that's the time of Bottomless. If this is a top deck Bottomless. So it looks like he kept the Allure in hand, because he couldn't activate it. Well, he could have activated, but he didn't have it. There was no promise that it was going to be a Dark Monster. That effect gets the 2 Arabellum, and then here he can Bottomless here, or Torrential. So he does have the Bottomless. But he's debating on whether he wants a Book Moon. He does, to keep the 1 Arabellum. In this deck list, he does play, I believe, Pot of Avarice, because he can recycle his Arabellum and his Rescue Cat. He also plays Call, I believe. Yeah, and if you have less than... you typically want your Rescue Cat live, and then when you tribute off the Rescue Cat, you have 2 in the deck. But if 2 Arabellum gets Bottomless by his 1, then he only has 1 Arabellum and his Rescue Cat is dead if he recycles it back in his deck. So booking here was like, it made sense. Okay, so he plans out his graveyard. He sees that he has 3 dark, And like I said before, he might have kept the Dark Arm in his hand because he had a handful of monsters in the beginning of the game. So he probably kept this in his hand, but it was never discarded. So he's calling priority just to pop a card on the field. Um, so what would I pop in this situation? I would probably pop either the Airbellum, because in case this is these are trap cards that respond to a summon, the Airbellum will at least get destroyed so that you don't have to worry about it attacking you directly. That's what I would do. And that's what he does. So he just targets the Airbellum here. Okay. And it looks like he doesn't have any trap to respond to this, which leads me to believe that these traps are one of them is okay. So this leads me to believe that his other sets are like Starlight Road, because if it was a Solemn, he would have activated here. Yeah. Now he's destroying the Summoner Monk, which leads me to believe he wants to force out the Battle Trap by attacking. Yeah, so he leaves the Plague Spreader in graveyard for future. So this actually, after the attack is resolved, none of these are Battle Traps. It might be a Starlight Road and a Spell Shard. And then knowing that Dark Arm's on the board now, he can't just set a monster willy-nilly because it will just get destroyed by the Dark Arm. So he has to actually commit to a play here. If he has like a Brain Control or Mind Control, he could use the Dark Arm to pop itself and the back row, because he does have I believe he has a lot of Darks in the graveyard. Yeah, so he top decks the Brain Control, or he might have had it from the beginning to deal with the Tragodia. Potential Tragodia when he attacked with Airbellum directly. Okay, so he doesn't use the effect. He kind of wants him to trade his Dark Arm with the back row. So my question is why he didn't use the effect to at least pop the back row, but I think that he might only had one Dark. He takes it. So he use it to pop the Dark Arm, yeah. He sets another back. No, he does not set another back. So he's still relying on the same back rows. Summon monster. Takes it. Sets another back row. So most likely a trap, because he did search this. Did he draw a card? Didn't pay attention. He takes it. Yeah, he does draw a card. He just did it really quick. He summons Gale, halves it, calling priority. Here let me think. So he only has a Plague Spreader zombie in the graveyard. So he could technically use Zombie Master's effect to discard a card and bring back a Plague. So here I would probably attack. But he doesn't make a synchro play. Text for 900. And he sets another trap. Summons Ascendant. Ascendant is larger now, thanks to the Gale. Forcing out more back row. So summons Sorcerer. Yeah, still pretty safe into the back row because he hasn't been activating it. So probably no need to call priority there. But maybe he was afraid of like a top deck Dark Arm. So I guess yeah, this is an okay play. But I would have attacked because these traps weren't doing anything. Maybe he was playing around like a shrink. Anybody plays that in Caliber Cat. Yeah, so he finally draws a monster and sets it. Could be a spy. That's another back row. So him setting another back row leads me to believe one of these is Solemn. Spy dies here. This might be the battle trap, and this might be a Solemn. Or this could be a Solemn too. He sets another monster, committing to the board. Another reason why people might be setting cards is to play around the top deck dust shoot as well. So he flips it over to declare an attack. He knows that these cards are probably not going to be useful, so this incentivizes him to pop the back row to see if he can hit the Starlight Road or something. But he could also kill the spy as well to stop the Kais for tributing. It was a dust shoot. Okay, so it wasn't a Starlight Road. Huh, it's kind of interesting. Okay, summons Goblin Zombie. Oh, okay. Wow, interesting. That was a Book of Moon. I wonder if he had milled Heavy Storm earlier off the Raikou, which led him to set more back rows. That could have been a possibility. So he solemns the Book of Moon so that he can't get another Gravekeeper Spy. Back over the Gallop Zombie. And he takes the damage. And he takes. Okay, cool. Alright, so we're going to game 2. Not sure what they would side in the next match. He's playing Goblin Zombie. He's playing a zombie deck, and he's playing Caliber Cats. So it's kind of tough to say. Looks like a Soul Taker from here. Let's skip to the part where the game starts. Okay, so it looks like the zombie player goes first because he did lose the first round. Oh no, he makes him go. He makes him go first. That's interesting. So it tells me to believe that he probably sides like go second card or something. Spell cards. He set into the dust shoot. Another reason why you shouldn't let your opponent go first is because dust shoot is in this format. But maybe he thought that he was going to side out the dust shoot because he made him go first. And he believes that he thought he was going to go second, but he kept the dust sheet in anyways. So let's see, what was that other spell card? Is that foolish? Pretty foolish. Yeah, that's foolish. So he chooses the Diva, which leads me to believe that he has a set card to deal with the Pyramid Turtle. So it could be like a Spy into Descendant to pop. So now this guy can't do a Pro Storm, where you set the Heavy Storm along with other stuff. Most likely he's gonna set Dust Tornado, or he could, I don't know, just pass. That's tough. Summon the turtle. That's a tough one. That's for sure. It's 100% a turtle because you can't set anything else in his hand. So I flip this over to the spy most likely. Yep, and then he's gonna summon the Descendant to pop the turtle. No priority needed. So he kept the upstart in hand because he doesn't want to draw it into Descendant. So he flips that over to play that. So he has a lot of plays here. He can summon the Airbellum, use his ability to tribute to pop this, attack the Airbellum directly. and then make him discard a card out of his hand. Like a Heavy Storm too. If he has it. Kills a monster. And he does not have Air Belm, so he attacks directly for 15. Most likely he has another set monster. Or just more back row, okay. So he knows that was a set Dust Tornado, so he sets another one just in case. Probably a spell card, because this got Dust Tornadoed. He wanted him to hit the bluff card. He also set 2 knowing he had Heavy Storm because this Dust Tornado would also be lost in the exchange of Heavy Storm. But he loses the Book of Moon. Bullishes. What was this card? It was a Pyramid Toad, so he can dump a Mizuki to crash into the, Okay, so he has a Deep Crow in hand. That's a back row. So pretty much simplified to where he could just start doing damage. Okay, still not drawing a monster he can summon. That's another back row. Passes with no monster to summon. He summons the Rescue Cat. Pretty good top deck. But now he can get his Air Belm to start controlling his hand because he doesn't have any monsters. A Synchro here. Arcanite to pop the back row. Wow, so he decides to waste the Solemn on the Arcanite. Oh wow, and then he has the Dark Arm to follow up. Yeah, that's pretty much game. A fast game too, for sure. Yeah, there was I think this Caliber Cat's strength is to be able to simplify the game state so that it ends the game quicker. Not really much towards the whole like comboing and like making sure that you have an unbreakable board that I thought it would be. So we go to game 3. Most likely, knowing that he keeps the Dust Shoot, he's probably going to elect to go first here. Yeah, so he does go first because he doesn't want to be Dust Shooted like game 2. Okay, so he draws return. He does a classic T set. Draw the card, not in a Dust Shoot. Heavy Storms because he probably has a play where he wants to bait this out. Wow, Pro Storm. Okay, so now Heavy Storm is out of the way, which means that both players are freely able to set cards without worrying too much. So he flips. Oh, he activates the Mind Control. Okay. Personally, I wouldn't have wasted Heavy Storm here, knowing that my opponent does play Raikou. I would have Mind Controlled, flipped over the Raikou, and popped the back row. Yeah, so it was a Raikou. That's very dangerous. Setting a Pro Storm with a Raikou is actually pretty dangerous because of the Mind Control play, now that I think about it. Because he could have just wasted it so well. They're asking if do they have to mill if he flips. I believe it's mandatory to mill in the old version of Raikou. But most likely won't have to mill. Okay, so he decides to attack directly, and then he hits the Diva out of his hand. So he drew the Diva for turn? No. Wait, didn't he put back Diva? How did he have a Diva again? Oh, that's a different game. No, right, that's game 2. Sorry. Yeah, that was game 2. So he takes out the Diva, making a Taster here. Second against zombies. Most zombie monsters are dark, and also the monsters that he bring out are most likely dark too. But this forces Bryanak to deal with it because Guyo can't run this over. So he sets into the back row. Still not drawing a monster. Unless he wants to set it in main phase 2. Yeah, he does. Let's turn into the back row. Move into a Foolish. Summon Cyber Dragon. The cool thing about Cyber Dragon with the Catastra interaction is that you can contact fusion the Catastra because he's a machine monster. But I'm not sure if zombies have enough extra deck space to play a Chimera Tech. So he blows up the Spy with the Black Rose. So the Catastra actually forced him to commit 2 cards out of his hand to deal with his board, because Catastra was going to run over most monsters. Except Dark Arm. So he summons his Descendant. Is like, this is so funny because with Caliber Cat you only play like 1 Descendant, and he keeps drawing it. Okay, so he forces the exchange with Deep Prison. That's another monster. Okay. So instead of synchroing to a Stardust, which is really smart here, he decides to attack this because in case it's a hamster, he can actually get rid of the Raikou, as opposed to having only 1 monster. Because it could be a Raikou 2, but he would only lose 1 monster. And the reason why you want to kill the Raikou is because he can flip it, destroy a card, and tribute for Caius and deal with the other one. So it's always a good idea not to synchro before you attack. Also could be a DD Warrior Lady. So he was ready to lose the Cyber Dragon to the potential DD Warrior Lady, if Zombie plays it. And now he decides to attack directly here, or attack into the Raikou. So say he left the Raikou there instead of attacking, and he synchros into like a synchro monster. He could flip the Raikou, destroy the synchro monster if it's not Stardust, or he could just tribute this monster for top deck Caius. So it's a good idea to eliminate all the tribute fodders. So he could pop the Cyber Dragon here, leave the Airbellum, but that forces him to like top deck something to do with the Airbellum, because the Airbellum is gonna neuter his hand. So he chooses the Cyber Dragon instead of the Airbellum. So he does Milikias. He does a set, so and he flips over Dust Tornado, yeah. So he's trying to bluff him with a Foolish Burial. He loses the Caius. So yeah, so he made the right call by attacking the Raikou off the board, because he could have done Tribute Summon Caius. Next over the Reaper. Good top deck. Allows him to survive a couple more turns. Still unable to draw another monster to follow up with the Airbellum. Okay, he draws another dead card that he can't activate. Wow, top deck smashing. Okay, so that's exactly what he needed to get past the defense. So now this Airbellum can discard the lost card. Okay, it was a Dark Arm. Okay, so he couldn't summon it because he didn't have enough Dark monsters. Yep, and that's game. Alright, cool. Yeah, that was the this matchup between the two. It looks very simplified. So it looks like the strategy for this build was to basically make it so that your opponent has less cards. This is a combo deck, so it does rely on keeping cards in hand to like use it all in like one shot to like make a really good board. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That was my commentary for EDISON for this week. I'll try to have one commentary video every week for EDISON. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace out, guys.